Welcome back to Global Business Europe. The World Wildlife Fund is warning that humanity could be at risk of losing invisible benefits of biodiversity. They found that the vital support that wildlife provides is underrepresented in science and policy discussions, and it's feared that that could mean a critical lack of action on conservation. Well, let's talk now to Dr. Becky Chaplin-Kramer, who's the WWF's Global Biodiversity lead scientist. Welcome to the programme. Good to see you. So give us a bit of a background to this. What's the scale of the problem? How much risk is our biodiversity under?
Well, the IUCN has listed 50,000 species that are threatened with extinction. That's more than a quarter of the total number of species assessed, but there are millions more that we don't even know the status of, and so many of these play integral roles in their ecosystems. And the roles they play are in jeopardy long before they actually go extinct. They can't perform their regular duties at lower abundance. And what WWF has found is that wildlife populations have declined on average 73% since 1970.
So is this what you mean by this term invisible benefits? Are you saying that biodiversity loss, species loss, has a bigger impact than just that in itself?
Yeah, well, some of the benefits that wildlife provide are conspicuous. We can see them. Food from hunting or fishing, pollination and pest control, wildlife-based tourism is a huge industry. But wildlife are at work shaping ecosystems all the time, and just because we can't see them doesn't diminish their importance. Animal seed dispersers greatly influence the diversity and even the amount of carbon stored in a forest, the largest seeds that would otherwise just drop to the shade of their parents if the animals didn't disperse them. Predators keep down overgrazing and diseases, grazers and burrowers aerate the soil and dramatically increase the diversity across landscapes. And many species actually engineer whole ecosystems into existence, like beavers, whose dams create new lakes, storing and purifying water.
So is this an issue, do you think, that's currently being taken seriously enough?
I think we just don't appreciate the connections between species and ecosystems. Sometimes when people think about nature, they think of a place. And that's not wrong, but it's also all the life inside the place. So if we're only preserving the places without attending to the species that inhabit them, we might be preserving increasingly empty places. And without their wildlife, as I just said, ecosystems won't look or function the same, so they can't necessarily provide those benefits to people.
So what should governments and policymakers be doing to try and change things?
Well, one part is to bring together these different goals that we have. We have frameworks for biodiversity. The countries will be getting together again next month to discuss how to mobilize finance for the ambitious commitments that have already been made. But we really need to start connecting the agendas between species and ecosystems, recognizing that the success of one really depends on the others.
And what about us? That's the policy level, if you like. But what about individually? What can we do to try and keep our biodiversity?
Well, I think a big piece of it is recognizing that, again, it's not just about setting aside places, which is super important, but wildlife face a lot of other threats, many of which we contribute to, in addition to habitat loss, overexploitation, too much hunting, overfishing, pollution, all the pollution that we create, invasive species. When we are transporting our goods or even our vehicles from one place to another, we often carry species with us, and of course climate change. So in order to really address this crisis, we have to be tackling all these problems together.
And when it comes to losing species, the value of wildlife, if you want to put it like that, it's sort of bigger than just their physical existence, isn't it? We lose more than just a species when we lose them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually, it's hard to even pick one species when we talk about these things. They're all so interconnected, but there are some species that ecologists call keystones, like that center stone in an archway that if you pull it out, the whole thing would collapse. And so we talk about keystone species because we've actually witnessed the whole ecosystem changing when they've been removed or significantly reduced. A lot of these are predators, like wolves or sea otters that we feature in this paper, whose overhunting led to explosions of grazers like deer or sea urchins that completely transformed the ecosystem. In the case of sea otters, the urchins decimated kelp forests without the sea otters to control them. And along with that went all the benefits that kelp forest provides: carbon storage, protection from coastal storms, nurseries for many fish. So we can't just think about the economic value of the sea otter pelt, but really like all of the different benefits that came from that intact and healthy ecosystem.
Dr. Becky Chaplin-Kramer, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on the programme. That's Dr. Becky Chaplin-Kramer from WWF.